nimepigana na watu wengi juu ya mapenzi yangu. Sasa hiyo mtanifanyia nini?
Loss is associated with the experience of being deprived of someone or something valuable, whether it be a loved one, relationship, a job, a pet, or something that holds a special place in your life. Trauma, on the other hand, refers to an emotional response to a distressing event or situation that exceeds a person's ability to cope. This may lead to a long-term psychological and emotional impact on the person's life.
Yes, loss is the grief you feel when you lose something of value. So there's a grieving process. And you know the 5 stages of grief. You have your denial, then your anger, then your bargaining, then your depression, and then finally acceptance. So you go through that as a process of loss. Trauma is escalated. It's an escalated loss that is beyond what is considered to be normal physiologically. And there you have things like wars, natural disasters, sex, sexual assault.
Grief is the natural emotional response to loss or trauma. It plays a crucial role in processing and coming to terms with what has happened. It allows individuals to express and work through their emotions. Psychiatrists say there are generally 5 ways of coping with grief, although not everyone experiences these stages in the same way or other.
The major thing is to stabilize the patient immediately afterwards, So there's that initial window of opportunity where you can quickly assess if there's been physical damage. When it's rape, you want to do your rape kit, and if there are any injuries, physical injuries, for instance, natural disasters or armed robbery. And then you have to screen for post-traumatic stress disorder after a month when you have hypervigilance, increased startle response, you have avoidance behavior, you have increased in anxiety, and so you have flashbacks and nightmares. Because if a proportion of people with trauma are going to go on to develop post-traumatic stress disorder, and they're going to need to have medical treatment. Treatment of loss involves identifying the impact of the loss on the functioning of the individual. What differentiates something that needs medical treatment from something that doesn't necessarily need medical treatment is the degree of impact on the functioning of the individual. If you're not able to, do the normal things you do every day, interact with people, work, go to school if you're a student, if it affects your studies, if it affects your recreation and other areas of functioning, then you definitely need psychiatric and mental health support.
Family members and friends can provide emotional support, understanding, and a sense of belonging during the coping process. Culture also plays a significant influence on how individuals and communities perceive and cope with loss and trauma. Different cultures may have unique rituals, beliefs, and traditions related to grief and coping, which the society respects and follows in the healing process.
There are some people that theorize that unless trauma and loss and grief, unless they are processed through the community, that it's very difficult for it to completely resolve. Because of the isolating nature of trauma, you go through disbelief and shock, and so many people withdraw to themselves. As a community reverses that, you can stand united in community and process grief together as a community. It's also a way of honoring the victims. For instance, if there's bereavement, you honor the victims. You can set up a memorial. You can have a public funeral. These are all ways you can set up a GoFundMe page for those in need after a natural disaster or a terrorist attack. These are some ways the community can come together and unite around a trauma.
Sit back and take the journey with us on this edition of Kendio as we go through the stages of coping with loss and trauma.